Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host, Dave Kranzler from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. While the United States continues to conduct war as a business model, the East continues to conduct business as a business model. Today's special guest is Mr. Jeff Brown from 44days.net. He is an author and a great study of what is happening in China. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Brown.
Hello, Rory.
Jeff.
Yes, good morning.
How are you?
Doing great. It's beautiful here. It's pitch black, but it's beautiful.
Well, we have Dave Kranzler's on the line with us.
Hi,
How
Dave.
you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. Great to get to know you.
Likewise, I've been looking forward to this conversation we're going to have today.
Absolutely, me too.
Well, I was just reading your note saying that you've been digging into where China stores its gold.
Yeah, absolutely. China has a Fort Knox. Its Fort Knox is in the home province of Mao Zedong, which may be symbolic or may not. Which is down in the south. It's a subtropical. It's Hunan, Hunan. The capital of Hunan is Changsha, and I'm spelling these all out for the Daily Coin fans who want to look this up. It's in the capital of Hunan is Changsha, Changsha, and about 30 to 40 kilometers north of Changsha is it's an area called Miluo, Miluo, and it is a very heavily forested mountainous area. And there is a town there called Safflower, and the translation in English is safflower. And everything I found on the Chinese web in Chinese language is that everybody knows that that's the Fort Knox, but everybody knows not to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
And that it's crawling with with PLA soldiers and heavily fortified. So that is the Fort Knox of China. So you all can look it up on the map. I just tried it in Google in English, and if you just put in Miluo and then Hunan, Hunan, and then China, you can see where it is.
Okay.
Furthermore, I found out that the People's Bank of China are obviously they don't want to have all their chickens in one basket or eggs in one basket, and they have that's their Federal Reserve or their national bank, but obviously it's government owned. It's not privately owned like in the States. They have 12 branch banks, and each one of those has a gold vault. So they have gold also spread around the rest of the country. So that would appear to be where the vast majority of China's national gold stock is. They, of course, as you know, you in our last show you said, oh yeah, well, there's something about 1,500 tons of this or that. What that is just recently, for the first time ever, China has authorized a private gold vault to be built down north of Hong Kong in Shenzhen, and it's gonna cost $125 million to build. It's 1,500 metric ton gold vault, and it's going to be the first privately owned one by the Chinese Gold and Silver Society, which is basically the jewelers of China and Hong Kong. So that plus the fact that the Chinese through the Fosun company bought the Chase Manhattan Bank building, in New York City, which has the world's largest gold vault, 2,000 metric tons. It would appear that China is going to have 3 or 4 of the largest gold vaults in the world. Already has 2 with Chase and Miluo, and they will with the Chinese jewelers. Plus, the one in Miluo, their Fort Knox. So that's my report for you and Dave today.
Now, is Changsha, is that like the capital city?
Yeah, don't put that in. Yeah, but just put in Miluo and then Hunan, Hunan, and then China. It'll pop up.
Yeah, I did that. I've got a whole map here, so I see where it is. Now that's where you're saying that the
China's Fort Knox is
where the PBOC keeps their gold.
Yeah.
And
well, most of it, because
most of it, okay.
They also have 12 branch banks around the country. And of course, people tend to forget China is a continent-sized country. It's as big as Canada and the United States. And so they have also 12 branch banks, obviously one here in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Chongqing, the four big cities, and then the major provincial capitals around the country.
And Shangji, isn't that the old world trading center for China?
Shaanxi? Well, Shaanxi is where Xi'an is, and that is, I guarantee you there's a PBOC there. That is that's the terminus of the fabled Silk Roads.
Right.
From the Middle Ages. I mean, that's where, Marco Polo went, and
yep.
That's where the terracotta soldiers are. I mean, that is a terrifically historical city going back, 4,000 years.
Well, it would make sense that they would have a gold vault there. When you were talking, Jeff, I remembered what I'd asked you about, and there was a report here in the States. Somebody was building several of these massive gold vaults all over China, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000
they are,
tons.
well, if the Chinese government is building any more gold vaults, I guarantee you no one's going to know about it.
Okay.
But when the Hong Kong jewelers, inked the deal to put in the very first private one, and 1,500 metric tons. I mean, that's a huge vault.
Yes.
That went public. I mean, that was all over the Hong Kong press, and it was actually in the Chinese press too, in Chinese. So that one's very public, and the fact that it's the first private vault in China ever to be allowed is I think very very symbolic about China's willingness to liberalize its gold market. And think about it, guys. I mean, with all the shenanigans going on in Europe, with melted gold and the phantom gold in the United States, the jewelers probably feel like their gold is safer in China than they do anyplace else.
I would agree with that.
I know I would feel a lot better. Closer the better. The closer to my hand is,
it's going to be right across the border from Hong Kong in a special economic zone called Qianhai, Qianhai, which is SEZ in Shenzhen, which is of course the celebrated very first special economic zone that was developed by Deng Xiaoping, which was actually the brainchild of Xi Jinping's father, Xi Zhongxun. He was actually the guy that developed that idea. He was the governor of Guangdong when and he was the one that pitched it to Deng, and Deng signed off on it. So it was actually, this all goes back to Xi Jinping and his father.
Very cool. You are just a wealth of knowledge, Jeff, and I certainly appreciate your willingness to come on and to share with Dave and I and our audience. And man, I've learned more in the first 10 minutes here than the last 10 months about what's going on.
You guys are a font of information and knowledge too. What's going on from your end?
Just for the benefit of our audience, Jeff, can you just sort of describe your background really briefly and what you're doing in China and how long you've been there?
I'm from Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State, Purdue graduate. Went to the Peace Corps in 1980 in North Africa, and that started my career. I never went back home really, and spent 10 years in Africa and the Middle East, 7 years in China, 5 years in France, and then so that my mom and dad could be grandmother and grandfather, we moved back to Oklahoma in 2001. stayed there until 2010, and we were there during the Bush years, and it was not a great time to be back, and we just couldn't handle it anymore. And during that time, to be honest with you, we had a real estate business, lost everything, went completely bankrupt in 2008. From 2008 to 2010, and we got into teaching, and my wife and I are now, and we came back over in 2010 because they were firing so many teachers, and we came back over here in 2010, and it's just been an amazing journey. I wrote my first book here, 44 Days, and am now writing Xi Jinping's Diaries, and have my other book, Reflections in Sinoland, based on all my columns on my website. So coming back was a really fortuitous event, and I wouldn't trade it for the world to see China from in the 1990s, and then to see it in the 2010s. Has been a revelation.
Big difference.
Yeah. So Dave, tell us what you know about the gold fix here in China. I've done a little bit of research, but I'm sure you know it better.
Well, I don't know that I would assume that I know more than you do, Jeff. What I know is basically just what's been written over here about it, which is that the Chinese plan on introducing a yuan-based gold fix that will compete with the London gold fix, and I believe it's going to be fixed off of the new Shanghai Gold Exchange International Futures Exchange, but you can clarify that or rectify it if that's wrong.
Actually, the fascinating thing about the Shanghai Gold Exchange is that it's all physical bullion. There's no paper, and they are the arrogance of the West, with the IMF and the World Bank, and now China's, is so powerful economically that they, 16 months ago, Xi Jinping says, I propose an Asian bank and investment bank, and 14 months later it becomes a reality.
Yep.
And everybody except the United States and Japan are in on it. It's one of the greatest humiliations of America's empire.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Anyway, for the Shanghai, the London, you know more about it than I do, but they kind of got caught with their pants down with the fact that these 10 private banks in London get on the phone every morning and basically fix the gold price in private, and I guess they found out it's been a little bit less than transparent. And so
understatement.
I guess for 99 years they've been doing this. How could people be putting up with this? But anyway, the Chinese, that was supposed to be, I think, more open, and Dave, you know more about it than I do, and they didn't invite the Chinese. They allowed in all these these banks, including HSBC, in Hong Kong, and all these Western banks, but they snubbed the Chinese. And so the Chinese are not going to take this kind of stuff sitting down. They said, okay, you don't want us to be on, we're the biggest gold producer, we're the biggest gold importer, we're the biggest world economy, we're the biggest manufacturer, we're the biggest trader in the world. They don't get mad. They just say, okay, we'll do our own gold fix. And so they are testing it now. That's the way the Chinese do things, very incrementally. They don't roll stuff out like we do here. They'll test it like in a province, or they'll test it in 2 or 3 provinces, and then they'll work it up. They'll scale it up. And that's what they've done. They're testing it in Shanghai, and to make sure that it is actually an honest fix, it is based on a kilo bar, a 1 kilogram bar, and it's going to actually be bid on. The gold fix is going to be set publicly. In other words, people from the outside will actually bid on that gold bar, and so it will be much more transparent. So they'll put it on. They'll put that gold bar up for bid, and that way it will be open and transparent, which is the antithesis of the London metal exchange.
Exactly. I love it.
So I don't know what's going to happen with that. The Chinese, they do not do things quickly. They make sure things work. They get all the kinks out. They will. I'm sure this will take months for them to finally roll it out. But they're basically going to stick their thumb in the eyes of of the West again with the Shanghai gold exchange, which has actually been around since 1990. There's just been the international part where you and I can invest, or our company can invest. That started in I think it was 2002.
Let me ask you this, because we're hearing reports, and either one of you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's been reports that they were bringing that exchange in September-October timeframe.
Well, I don't know. What I have been told is they're testing it. So I'll do some more research on that. And I'm writing Xi Jinping's diaries, so I'm pretty busy. But I will check on that, and on our next show, maybe in a month, I'll have some more information. My understanding is that it was that's something.
Correct. At least the media over here that is actually reporting on it. It's been, for some reason, it's been kind of filtered through that the plan is to roll it out by September.
Oh, yeah, this year. That makes sense.
Definitely this year. That the most definitive thing I can find that comes from actually China is that they were going to roll it out before the end of 2015, and somehow that's gotten synthesized down to September. So who knows?
Well, the 70th anniversary of the victory of fascism by the Russians and the Chinese on September 3rd. That'd be a good time to do it.
And maybe that's where people are pulling the September time frame out.
Yeah, it would be so un-Chinese for them to sit there, and go, we're rolling out the gold fix here in Shanghai. They just don't do things that way. They test things, they tinker with things, they try things, they screw up. Everybody here says the legislature's rubber stamp. It's not rubber stamp. What it is twice a year they get together and meet for a week, but during the other 50 weeks of the year, they're furiously negotiating and discussing and passing bills and everything. They get rid of all of that parliamentary, show stuff, where they stand up and argue in public. They take care of all that behind the scenes and make all the decisions and shake hands and pass their laws, behind closed doors, like gentlemen. That's the way they do things here. And they're going to sit there and tinker with that gold fix. And, they tied the Hong Kong market, the Hong Kong Metals Exchange to the Shanghai Metal Exchange, electronically this year. They just do things in baby steps, and then they do things, quite privately, and then they'll just kind of quietly, there'll be an article in the paper that says, yeah, the gold fix is now official, but they typically don't make a big deal out of this kind of stuff. They just do it. They don't talk about it. They just do it.
I have a question here, and obviously we're going to have you back as much as you want to come back on our show. And this is something we can always push down the road. But a lot of the alternative media blogosphere types here think that the public disagreements between the United States and China are some kind of kabuki theater, and that what's really going on is that the U.S. and China are secretly behind the scenes collaborating on a new world order. And
I've been reading that. I don't know. Tell me what you think, Dave.
Well, my thing is I find it very hard to believe, and
I totally agree. The Chinese don't like us. They don't like us. I mean, I'm writing Xi Jinping's diaries. I read all this stuff in Chinese. They don't like us. They until 1872, even after the debauchery of of colonialism that started in 1514 with the Portuguese, and and then the Americans and the English in the 17th century, and then the debauchery of the Opium Wars, and addicting 25% of the population adult population to opium. It wasn't until millions of coolies, Chinese slaves were exported all over, Latin America and the Caribbean. In spite of all that, China was still the world's largest economy until 1872, until finally the United States eclipsed it. And it took that long and that much misery of colonialism, exploitation, and drug addiction, which was perpetrated by the British and the United States, right, for the Chinese to finally, become the second largest economy. And then, of course, it imploded in the Japanese and et cetera. So they are accustomed to economic greatness, and it's going to be in the diaries. I mean, you just go to the National Museum and you see their exhibition on China's reawakening. Xi Jinping has very brilliantly rebranded. I mean, his media savvy is just amazing. So there's this exhibition at the National Museum right on Tiananmen Square called the China's Awakening, and it's basically a history of China post-colonial contact and then post-liberation in 1949. And it's very telling that, and I'm actually going to put this in Xi Jinping's diaries. It's because he actually went there right after he became president, and that's where he launched his Chinese dream. It was at that exhibition that he launched his Chinese dream campaign. And when you walk into the exhibit, you literally, there's a recessed map on the floor that shows the world map in 1949, with all the colonies of Britain and all the colonies of France and all the colonies of Europe. There's independent China, and you literally walk over this map symbolically, as if you're like showing your contempt for the colonial world, the Western colonialism. You literally walk over this glass-covered map of colonial the colonial world in 1949.
The enslavement of man.
Yeah, exactly. They don't like us. Xi Jinping walked over that map and then walked through all of the misery of the Opium Wars and the misery of the addiction and the exploitation and the rape of a continent and the Japanese and they don't like us. That really is just too much. They don't like us. They don't need us. They haven't needed us for 4,000 years. Why would they want to join forces with a bunch of people who treated them like slaves and humiliated them for 110 years? I mean, that is so against the Chinese, thought process, and they're not colonialists. They're not expansionary. They have never had a hit other than Vietnam. That's the only country they colonized, and they did it for 1,000 years, and they regret it. And because now the Vietnamese hate them, and they have it's just not in their DNA. So I agree with you, Dave. I think it's just total. It's just a little bit too conspiratorial for me.
I think it's misdirection. I think it's people who don't understand the history of everything that you just talked about. For the clarification for our audience, can you just explain who Xi Jinping is?
Yeah, Xi Jinping is the president of the Republic of China, and he became president, and I say he's elected. He was elected through 30 years of. I mean, we'll have to have another show about how China's leaders are. It's a very meritocracy. But he, for 30 years, came up through the ranks and became president in 2013. And he is a tour de force. I mean, he is the West's worst nightmare. He's honest. He's hardworking. He's exemplary. He's proud of his culture. He's proud of his people. He's proud of their accomplishments. And I've been saying this on my website in articles. We are now in the Xi era. We had the Mao era from 1949 to 1978. Okay, he died in 76, but Deng didn't start the opening up of China till 1978. So then we had the Deng era from 1978 to 2013, and now the world is in the Xi era. And I'm going in my diaries, I am going to point out that really everybody thinks that that the United States is the dog, and wagging the world's tail. I'm going I can convincingly say that actually it's China is the dog that's been wagging the U.S.'s tail since 1949. And so we're now in the Xi era, and he is everywhere. He is in Kazakhstan this week. He is in Belarus. He is in Moscow. He has even gone to countries in Oceania. He was just in Indonesia. He was just in Pakistan. Modi's coming from India, after he gets back from Moscow for the World War II commemoration and the parade in Moscow. Chinese ships are in the Black Sea, docking at a port in Russia. The West has no answer for Xi Jinping. And he's media savvy. He has his own application now. You can get a phone app. I kid you not. You can get a phone application for free here with all of his books, so that you can read all of his books online now through a phone application. There's even been cartoons that came out over Chinese New Year, 3 animated cartoons about Xi Jinping, cleaning up all the corruption and the rot here in China. He is very media savvy. He's got the Chinese dream that he has launched, and the United States, all they can do, is not join the AIIB. I mean, that, and moving, more and more ships over here into the South China Sea. That's the only answer the United States has. It's sad, really.
I have to say that, if anything sort of points to the idea that the U.S. and China are not collaborating, is the fact that the U.S. and the United States lapdog Japan have not joined the AIIB. That says all you need to know.
Absolutely. Obama, coming over here late last year and getting Abe, Shinzo all riled up, and then going to the Philippines and signing a deal to put 1,000 soldiers there. Anyway, we were in the Philippines for Easter break, and there were all these headlines, about, China this, and on the Spratlys building air runways and all this other stuff, and building artificial, things on the islands there. But no one mentioned the fact that is China's answer. That is their, big FU to the United States for getting the Philippines to accept 1,000 soldiers to put back on Subic Bay or Clark Air Force Base. Actually, it's not those two. It's the old the Vietnam War era bases, but it's a Philippine base. But they don't. No one mentions the fact or has forgotten the fact that Obama twisted the president of the Philippines into taking 1,000 soldiers to plant, on China's front door. That's why they're building those airstrips on the Spratly Islands, to backhandedly tell the United States, okay, you're going to do that, we're going to do this.
Goes back to what I'd said when you and I originally spoke, is that the United States does war, China and Russia do business.
They're doing business.
They're conducting
exactly
business,
right.
and we are conducting war, and that's all that we have.
Absolutely.
Just like you pointed out. I mean, and you lost me when you were describing the president of China, and pronounce his name one more time for me.
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping.
Jinping means close to peace.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. Hopefully, he's holding up his end, unlike our
Well,
Nobel.
he's in Moscow right now with his strongest ally, Vladimir Putin. Isn't that? I mean, just think about this. No Western country has anybody at the commemoration of the defeat of fascism in the Second World War. No Europeans. I think a couple of the Czechs were there, maybe in Serbia, and a couple of other Eastern European countries were there. What is the West doing?
Jeff, it's not even being reported over here, not even in the alternative media.
It's just unbelievable.
I have to be honest, I didn't even know that was going on either. And if I had known it was going on and I had known that there wasn't any Western representation there, I would have written a blog post pointing that out.
Well, now you can. No one's there. Merkel's going to go after, or she just went, but she's not going to go. But she's going to go lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. The Russian soldier. I mean, when we are sitting here today having this interview because of the Russians, crushing Hitler. We have the Russians to thank for us being here today, not speaking German. It's just I don't understand this is empire. This is the rot of empire. This is the
rot of empire.
This is the collapse of empire. It's pathetic.
I like the rot of empire. That really sums up what's happening here in the United States, because it is rotten to the core, and it is rotting from within, and it's amazing. And I love hearing you describe what's going on over there. I really do.
I don't know if you remember this, but it was shortly after, I think, Bernanke sort of got his feet wet as the Fed head, and I think Henry Paulson might have still been in the Treasury. And I remember they went. There used to be the vice premier over there used to be a woman, didn't it?
I think you're right.
Yeah, and I remember that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They went over there to read the Riot Act to China about, how they weren't happy with the way China was conducting its financial affairs. And there was the vice premier was giving a speech. It was as part of some conference that was going on. And it was clear that the intent was for the U.S. to go over there and browbeat the Chinese. And to kick off the conference, this woman gave a speech. And she actually started off the speech by saying, for 5,000 years, China has been a responsible member of the global community. And it was clear that it was completely directed at Bernanke and Paulson sitting in the audience. And it was just complete humiliation for them. And they went through, and she started going through a whole list of what how China has been active in making the world a better place. And it was a lot of what she had to say was direct shots at what the U.S. was doing at the time. It blew me away. It just completely blew me away.
And nothing's changed. Nothing has changed since that speech.
Things have changed because I think China does actually have the upper hand, and I wouldn't even be surprised if there's ways in which they militarily have the upper hand.
I mean, as far as what the United States is doing, we haven't changed anything. We're still conducting.
No, it's gotten worse.
Exactly.
I'll research that speech and thank you, Dave, and Rory. I'll put that in Xi Jinping's diary.
If you Google, for 5,000 years, China's been a responsible member of the global community, you'll probably find reference to it. I think I might have even blogged about it. So you might.
Okay, I'll check out your website.
So, Jeff, this has been phenomenal. This has even exceeded my expectations, and Rory knows I've been looking forward to this, and I can't wait to do it again. And I'll let Rory just set up whatever's convenient with you, and I'll make sure my deck is cleared whenever we meet next.
As long as you're willing, we would love to do something with you on a pretty regular, ongoing basis.
Yeah, sure.
And we can, because you would be a great outpost for what we're doing.
Sure.
Because you're in the heart, literally, of the global transition. You're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I call China the new century beast, I say, if you go on my website, I say that that I have an Angelo Dundee cornerman seat, in the belly of the New Century Beast, and I really feel that way. I mean, this,
Yes.
Beijing. I think Beijing has eclipsed Washington. I mean, people can't imagine that. People, I mean, they Westerners can't even fathom that. But yeah, I mean, Beijing is now the capital of the world's largest economy, and it's difficult for the West to accept that.
I would agree with everything you said there, Jeff. Hey, I actually need to get going here.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll check out your website, Dave, and thank you, Rory, and looking forward to the edit, and looking forward to listening to it, and really enjoyed meeting you, Dave, and Rory, talking to you again, and let's discuss the schedule.
That sounds great to me. I look forward to it, Jeff.
Okay, bye-bye, guys. Have a good day. I'm going to go to. Actually have a good evening. I'm going to go to work. It's time for me to. It's Friday. It's Friday morning here. I'm going to go teach some kids.
Have a good morning.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Rory. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jeff.